Alright, take 3. Battery died on the last one. So, you want to avoid the pits. Knots are generally a really bad thing. So, we're going to put this in off-center. Branches are better. They usually off-center themselves. As you can see here, this side's a little thicker than that one. So we're going to pop this in and make ourselves a tenon, and then pop that in the chuck. I like to use a different gouge to strip the bark. The bark usually has dirt in it, and it's just generally more abrasive. Uh-oh, there we go. Bump that on the sander. Pull out my spur. Aha, I still have my point. Thought I finally lost it. I really like being able to chuck a spur. Alright. Walk away with our chuck key. Got in there lightly. Now we're on the same center. Grabbed it. And start with facing this, just because it's way out there. I don't like it. Hear that sound? It's my taper in my headstock moving. Alright, I struggled on this one. So we're going to come in and clean it up. I can't see anything either. Okay. I like to give these a little bit of a bell shape. I think it adds to them. Right. Oh. So much for my live edge, huh? This is take 3. Alright, so at this point, I would sand it. You want a wet sand. You want a wet sand, wet wood. okay with that. I'm gonna move. Well, no, I'm not. I'm not. I'm gonna true the rest of this pretty much up to my live edge. Alright, good. That'll do. Bring this guy back over. Tape my flashlight on. Tape is probably a bad idea. Get something else. You run out of tape fast. Smaller flashlight, maybe. It wouldn't be so bad, but tape this guy on. Go turn the lights off. And start turning your tulip, or bowl, or whatever you want to call these. Turning the lights off, I feel, is a double-edged sword. Can't really see where your cutter is. You work from the tailstock end toward the headstock always on these. That way it leaves more wood to support your turning. Wow. I think with this wood, around 3 millimeters is about where you start to see light. That'll be back here in this area. When it changes to this color, I think you're down to 2-ish. I gotta see if there's a knot here or not. Okay, so that's bark and the checking from drying. The light isn't a perfect example of wall thickness. There's all kinds of things that can throw it off. That's why I feel like it's not the greatest tool, but it does really simplify things for you. Takes a lot of the guesswork out of it, at least. Not all of it. Yes, it's not really guesswork. You can kind of hear it if you listen, what thickness it really is. But that comes with a familiarity with the wood species more than anything. Because every wood seems to have a little different sound. So I got quite a bit of wall here. And I could still sneeze and cut through it, but I sneeze pretty loud. This one's actually pretty thick compared to the other ones I've made. I think I might be getting worse as I do each one of these. Now, different wood species will remain translucent. Elm won't. Elm doesn't get translucent till about 1/2 millimeter. Ash, it seems, will stay translucent. You can get it down to that 2 millimeter mark, or 1.5. But anything over that is too much to maintain that once it dries. Let's see. Let's say in here. I like to leave the bottoms of those a little thicker because they're supposed to want to warp. So a little bit of inconsistency should help you with that, in fact. Alright, I'm going to turn the lights back on, and oh, that's what we were seeing. Knots. They have a different density. They will not be as translucent as straight grain. That's the pith. I think we might ruin this guy. Anyway, this would be the point you would sand the outside of your cup. I like to sand on the back side. It seems to catch a little less. The faster you get this done, the longer it stays true. The cleaner you cut, the less you have to sand. The less sanding you have to do, the longer it stays true, the easier it is to complete the project. I suppose the message there is practice, practice, practice. Now we're getting out around. We won't be able to get any closer to the top of our tulip at this speed. The faster you spin, the faster it dries. So, as much as speed and centrifugal force is going to want to stabilize it, speed isn't necessarily your friend. I still haven't decided if more speed or less speed is good for this kind of project. Right. Turn our flashlight off, and we're going to put our tailstock in ever so gently. Pretty much just touch it, because if you put pressure on it, you'll start bending your shaft or your stem as you work, and that'll cause problems when it comes time to get it out of the machine. It'll even cause problems while turning it. So I'm going to cut this down to where I would want my base to be, which I've been making them about 1/3 the size of the tulip, and that I haven't made any that fall over exactly. They all stand on their own, but they get pretty close to falling over. That's roughly the size I want. Come in and establish some of the shape I want. Now, I like to step them down like this. For starters, you don't want to work more than about 1 inch at a time, just to maintain some stability in the blank. So we're cutting back here with the tip of the gouge over center, and what this prevents is the blank pulling itself up over the top of the gouge and breaking on your cutter. The rest is a little high, a little bit below center. Or you probably want, I'm thinking you want your cutting tip right at center. So we start with our heel here against the bowl. We roll down until we see we're cutting, and then we roll and push. I actually move my whole body to do the push. So heel, rotate down, see that we're cutting or feel that we're cutting, roll back, and push. Right? Now we can do this smaller. You don't have to be way over center. The thinner the stock gets, I think, the better it is to be way over center, but you don't have to be. I like to use my finger to hand steady because it creates a cleaner cut. If you noticed on the previous cuts where I didn't, it was a little hairy. That's what that hand steadying helps prevent. So now we're stepping down. We worked our 3/4 of an inch. We're going to rework some of this. Our pith is still close to center. I have to be very careful. Now I'm doing the same kind of cut. I think it's just because I'm used to it. You know, a cut like this, on this part of the stem, would break it. That part of the stem would wrap itself over your cutting edge, because it doesn't have the wood to support itself, and it would just snap. So we're getting down there. We're going to move back to this cut. I feel like if I want to move back to here to rework any of this, this is the only chance I have. But our pith is just out of there, so I think I'm okay. This is a different way I like to hand steady. Take my fingers, rest them on here, and then I take my thumb and I push the tool down on the rest. And I push the tool, swing my body, and push the tool with my thumb. And it just seems to take a lot of extra movement out of the cut that you may make, and it cuts really clean. I feel that becomes more important with stuff about 8 inches long. I don't think I've done anything thin like this as a spindle longer than 12 yet. But I do have my sights set on such projects. I would suggest practicing cutting on a spindle with the head and tailstock, cutting with one hand before trying to really hand steady. Because that's really what you're doing, is cutting with one hand. What I'm doing now does give me some downward pressure on the rest. We'll go back to this for a cleanup. Small, light, intentional cuts. You don't want to have that extra cup of coffee that day. So again, heel to the wood, roll into your cutting edge, and move. Heel to the wood, roll into your cutting edge, cleanup cut. Okay. The pith is so close to my stem. Alright, I think I'm okay with that. I'm going to turn it off. Take a look. Sand. I like to sand on the back and support with a finger. I have had these fail while sanding. Never pinch it. That will twist them right off. You really don't want to push. You let friction do its thing. If you ever feel it try to pull you somewhere, just let it. Because you can fight more than that 2 toothpicks worth of wood. Now this stem got a little thick on me. It'll still bend. It'll bend just fine. So we're out around, out yonder. We're going to clean up that tool mark, and this shoulder. A little bit at this transition. Turn it off, take a look. Still got a little bit of sandpaper in there. Turn it around. Our sandpaper is drying out. Should wet it again. And that's that. Turned. Now we part it off. Make sure you got plenty of room for your chisel. Now I parted all of these off, except for the last, I parted all of these off, and I haven't had an issue. Except for the last one I made on the last video, I snapped it. However, there was a knot in it, and it snapped at the knot, which I super glued back together and still put it in the bucket. It'll work. It's salvageable. So I need to find my saw, wherever I left that. Or can I just rip this off? Yeah, see that move when the tailstock came out? So far it warped. Oh, ash is a tough wood, isn't it? quite brittle. Somewhere between oak and maple. There it goes. Anyway, I'm going to take that over to the sander and bump it off. You remember I was talking about that noise in my tailstock, or my headstock in the taper? Leaves that little bit of chatter in there, and I'll have to wait for this to dry and hand sand that out. Anyway, this is what we had. After all that, this is our little guy. That stem's a little thick, but it's nice and uniform and clean at least. Getting better, I guess. My last step for this is this sweet little bucket. This is the one we broke right at that knot. Take this and leave them in here overnight. And tomorrow I'll take both of these and put something with a little weight. As you can see, they bend a bit, but the grain kind of wants to separate. So the longer you soak them, the less the grain's going to want to, or at least enough of the wood is going to soften that they shouldn't split. Either way, they're going to rest in there. Then I could probably take this 3/4 inch chisel and just put a block of wood somewhere up here or over here, depending on how much you want it to bend. Because this is thin, I'd put it here and just let this sit over there to bend it and let it dry for a day. That's it.